And the sun is shining here on Camano Island. And here we are at the stanza number 57 of the Rubaiyat. And going to read that, and then Swami Kriyananda will sing it. And I think I'll have him read Yogananda's paraphrase. Okay, so listen up here. O thou who didst with pitfall and with gin beset the road I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestination round enmesh me and impute my fall to sin?
Stanza 56. Stanza 57. O thou who didst with pitfall and with gin beset the road I was to wander in, thou wilt not with predestination round enmesh me and impute my fall to sin. Paraphrase. The soul speaks here to the ego. It was you alone who tore up the road I was to travel to soul freedom. The quicksands of ignorance that you created sucked me down repeatedly to spiritual death. Your drunken sense pleasures in which you reveled to stupefaction dulled my finer perceptions of divine wisdom. Will you now blame my fall on outward influences, on predestination, or on Satan?
Today's reading, Omar is affirming something that's understandable, particularly as it relates to oneself, but becomes more complicated when we apply it to others. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the law of karma, as these stanzas in the Rubaiyat have been now for the past many days. He's saying that essentially, I'll read part of it. To rationalize one's shortcomings by such claims as, I am bad because my karma makes me, or Satan made me do it, is to reason dangerously. And, nowadays with, in the last 100+ years, the growing awareness of, or the growing use and practice of the psychotherapy in which we attempt to identify causes for our suffering, our problems and attitudes and habits on the basis of perhaps our parents, our upbringing, and our circumstances. Now, there's no denying that our circumstances, including our parents and upbringing, have a great deal of impact on our lives. But it begs the question. So, for example, if I have high blood pressure, I could say, well, my mother had high blood pressure. And when I say that, am I really trying to say that I had nothing to do with it? I've heard many yogis who would otherwise fully affirm the law of karma actually make such statements. Oh, my high blood pressure or my cholesterol, it's in my family. Well, it's fair enough as it goes, but it doesn't really answer the question of why was I born into that family? Why was I born into circumstances with, an alcoholic father, for example, or an absentee father, or a cruel mother, a stepmother like Cinderella? And yet I remember after the tragedy of 9/11, at that time, I think everybody in America, at least, was watching television in the days that followed, and those graphic images of the Twin Towers falling to the ground. I mean, it's unforgettable, really, for those of us who saw these things. And I remember that Larry King, who I think recently passed away, a well-known, at that time, a well-known liberal interviewer, talk show host, I guess is the term. And I, neither then nor now or ever have I been much of a talk show host person. Maybe when I was a young adult, I watched Johnny Carson sometimes, but I generally didn't stay up that late, even as a young adult. Oh, I see a bald eagle circling over my head. Oh, hello. Must be a good sign. He wants to hear the program, I'm sure. And on Larry King Live then was an interview. He did an interview with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of the Transcendental Meditation Technique. And Larry King asked Mahesh Yogi, whatever his name was, about the law of karma as it related to this tragedy. And his answer in that high sort of squeaky voice was a little unsettling to me. This great tragedy had happened, and so the yogi starts talking about the law of karma. Well, be that as it may, and be that as it is in the Rubaiyat here today, that's not the most compassionate response. Now, maybe Larry King, maybe he had in mind the political karma between Iran or whoever, some of the Muslim people or countries or something, and America that triggered such a tragedy. I don't recall that that's what he had in mind. In any case, Maharishi really talked more about the karma of the people who died, a couple of thousand as I recall, 2,200 maybe, 2,237. And to cite the law of karma, I mean, I thought to myself during that interview that my teacher and friend Swami Kriyananda would never have responded in such cold mathematical terms at a time of national tragedy, nor surely would our guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. And so when we talk about the law of karma, let us apply it to ourselves and not use it as some people use the concept of sin, as was done in the book of Job, when Job suffered these things at the hand of Satan as a test of his faith and love for God, which he won the test. But his friends were sure he must have invited that karma, that's by his sin previously. He must have done something to deserve it. Well, we're talking a complex situation here. When I think of, the branches of science, atomic science, electrical science, astrophysics, quantum physics, you see just how complex are the laws of nature or the workings of nature. And so it is with karma. It's no different. It's just applied on a metaphysical level of intentions, actions, and the soul and ego. And so when people die in something like the Holocaust or an airplane crash or the Twin Towers, why this or that particular person was subjected to that tragedy, we, until we are self-realized, can't necessarily know the thread of karma that links that person. It can range in some cases. I think of the few who came out of concentration camps, who came out as saints, as heroes of the soul. It could have been for them a test, a final test even, of the soul, given by God or allowed by God according to their karma, meaning the karma of their desire to be free, to go through such a test. Who can say? And so we just had the crucifixion and Easter recently, and the tragedy of the crucifixion, surely. But these things, our tragedies, are really, from the standpoint of our soul, whether we are consciously affirming our soul as a devotee, can be, and surely are, tests of our faith, tests of our equanimity, tests of our love for God. And so even though Omar here is being coldly rational, or I should say Yogananda's explanation of Omar's quatrain is coldly rational as it relates to the law of karma. Blame no one for the evils that beset you. Accept responsibility for your own life and for whatever misfortunes you encounter. Do your best with firm resolution to eliminate the harmful tendencies in your own nature. Above all, go back to God. Only by perfect self-honesty and dynamic self-effort will you eliminate forever the influence of delusion in your life. At the very end, in an editorial comment where Swami Kriyananda adds his 2 cents, as it were, he talks about the Danda Swamis, which in India are a group of Swamis who always walk with a thick wooden staff as a reminder to stay rooted and centered in the spine and stand up straight and so forth. That mudra, that position of a straight spine, is a good affirmation of what was just said here. In other words, take responsibility for your life. Be strong in yourself. Be a spiritual warrior. Face your challenges with faith and with hope, meaning not hope, idle hope, but with the expectation that you will come out victorious. And what does victorious mean? You might die of an illness, but you can be victorious if you remain calm, centered, and loving, thoughtful of others, etc., even on your deathbed. Okay, great souls. Padma will address you tomorrow, if you're lucky. And I'm going to take a moment to take us offline